Hey everybody, it's Chris. This is the third time I have tried to record this particular video, so hopefully today it goes off without a hitch. Okay, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to look at His Dark Materials episode 5. We have quite a bit to talk about, so let's just jump in. If this is your first time here, I take TV shows and movies based on books and compare and contrast them to the source material, so there might be spoilers ahead. Viewer beware. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any of my future videos, and click the notification icon to join the notification squad, as it were, and be the first to know when something new drops. First up, we're going to look at more jumping ahead. You know, as if visiting alternate Earths this early in the show wasn't bad enough, now we are introducing characters from book 2 this early in the show. But it's fascinating that with this change, with this introduction of the Will character, they make what they did with the introduction of alternate worlds so early make a bit more sense, and I'm cautiously optimistic that it's going to, work out well. The reason I say that is because being able to watch the story arc and build of Will's story as you were also watching Lyra's story arc build over these next couple of episodes is going to tie those two characters together in a way that was not possible in the books because they were introduced so far apart narratively and just chronologically, because you read the first book and then get Will in the second. So like I said, cautiously optimistic that this is going to be a fantastic change, and it makes all of the stuff with Borealis and visiting the alternate Earth make a bit more sense and hopefully fit into the narrative better. So we'll see. Next up, we're going to look at a talk with Mecosta. So this was another great addition on the part of the writers. In the novel, this whole conversation about whether or not Lyra should go visit the Sea Village was just between Coram and John Fa. No one else really was involved, and it was another instance. It's really interesting. There's so many instances in the books where these things are kind of matter of fact. She comes in, there's some deliberation, and then John Fa decides that as long as she's back within a reasonable amount of time and can catch up with Egyptians on their way to get the kids back, you can go, and Yorick will take you because he's faster and he will protect you. It was all very matter of fact with no real drama attached, and that works fine for a novel, but I much prefer how they handled this in the show with having Coram say, if you can get Mecosta on your side, we'll have something to talk about. And that's super important because he was essentially saying, if you can get the mother of one of these children to say it's okay for you to go, we'll be in favor of it. I can talk Fa into it. And how dramatic and impactful that is. Lyra could delay greatly the rescue operation if something happened to her, or scull it altogether if she were to be captured or die or something. So it's real stakes for Mecosta. And having that moment in the show was far superior to anything we see in the books around this, and really ratcheted up the tension and the stakes of what they're doing. So fantastic job on that one, in my opinion. Next up, we're going to look at Serafina and Coram. This one I'm not going to talk a lot about because I don't want to cheapen it with words, but it was by far my favorite moment in this episode, probably of the entire season, just because of what happened between the two actors. And it's wonderful to see the actor who played Serafina. The last time I saw her was in The Strain, and she played Dutch, I believe, and she was fantastic in that, had a bigger role. Hopefully we'll see her more in this show, but she's a fine actor, and I love the part that they gave her in this show. And Coram, in the books, everything's the same, right? So they have a relationship, they had a child who died of disease, all of that stuff. He saved her, blah blah blah. But you don't have these moments of high tension and drama like you do in the show. Again, it was another matter of fact thing. They just relate the history, and she's there to help. Being able to give the actor who plays Coram something this meaty and interesting, I mean, like that final scene where he's trying to communicate to her his life since they parted was beautiful and really gut-wrenching and heart-wrenching in a way that you really didn't get in the book. So fantastic job on the part of the writers and the actors in that moment to be able to take something pretty small and make it that impactful. So another perfect example of when a show just completely knocks it out of the park with adapting the novel and making it so much better. So A+ job. So next up, we're going to talk about Lyra and York. This was a really beautiful, nice, quiet moment between the two characters. This conversation happens in the novel, but again, it's very matter of fact. It's a moment of exposition so we can learn about York and the bears and all of that stuff, finding out that he was thrust out of his, shoved out of his home, and he was someone of repute and had wealth and honor and influence and had it all taken away. I don't believe they referred to him as a prince at that moment in the books during that conversation, but it's nice that they added that for the TV show because it gives you more of a look into who York is and how far his fall really was for him, specifically. And I really liked that it was a moment of kind of care and tenderness between the two on their way to the village. So fantastic job on that one. Next up, we're going to briefly talk about the fishing village. This was mostly the same except for the removal of two characters that show up. And I think that they did a fantastic job by cutting them out. Essentially, they go to the village and they are helped along their way of finding where the boy was by an old man they met at the beginning with like a shotgun. Doesn't speak a language Lyra understands, so they have to have York translate for them, which was kind of cool. And again, it's another layer of his character you see that, because he seems like we view him as an animal, even though he can speak. And so being able to have the curtain kind of drawn back on how sophisticated he actually is. He knows multiple languages. You find out he's a prince. Like there's a lot of character development that happens, even in something that small. But I think it was right for them to cut it out, and they cut this out and then added the prince thing before. So it kind of balances, I think, with his character development. But it was good they removed this, and then later on they find a guy who is at the fisherman's shack, and that lantern she picks up off the ground is actually given to her by the fisherman who owns the shack. Those are interesting moments, but they slow down this march to this horrible moment, and I think that by removing them, they increase the pace and ratcheted up the tension, and the horror and terror that's involved in it is really much better. The only thing that was missing that I thought really would have sold even more how horrific what was happening is in the books, Pantalaimon just like freaks out because apparently her soul, being Pantalaimon, could just tell that the boy inside the shack didn't have a soul. His daemon was gone, and so he just freaks out. He doesn't understand it, and it's terror for him. It's something that's unnatural and not right. And so he's physically trying to keep her out. He's pushing her back, changing forms so that he can actually bear more on her and keep her back. And she has to fight her way through him to get in. And that would have been a really beautiful thing to have in this moment, to really sell that something truly grotesque and disgusting and horrible was about to be revealed, that then we then find when she walks through the door. So in a lot of ways, very good decision on the part of the writers. I just wish they would have left in that more desperation on Pantalaimon's part of keeping her out. And finally, we're going to talk about poor Mecosta. So this was completely different from what we see in the books. And in some ways it was better, and in some ways it was a little worse. I understand why they made it Billy for the show. It really drives home the stakes that are being played with here, how high they are, how horrible they are, and how much they take a toll on people by having that be Billy, by being a child that we know and that the characters know and love. In the novels, it's just, I hate to say random, but it's just a random child that no one knew, just another kid who had been taken by the Oblation Board. And so while there was a horror element to it, especially for Lyra and Pantalaimon, it wasn't in the same gravity as having it be Billy, who you have a relationship with, you have memories in common with. And so I get why they ratcheted it up. The problem I see here is that there was a beautiful moment in the novels where Lyra has to master her fear, as Yorick had said just a few pages or minutes earlier, because being anywhere near this child that had been severed was anathema to her. It was just unnatural, and you just didn't want to be anywhere near them. It made you nauseous, kind of. And she had to master that because of compassion and love. Like, this child is looking for its daemon. It doesn't understand what's going on. It has a cold, dead fish that is holding in place of its daemon because it needs something. And these things move her to compassion of such a level, and shows her own abilities as a hero, that she overcomes all of those things and takes him up and brings him back to the Egyptians. And when she gets there, everyone freaks out. The Egyptians won't go anywhere near the kid. They're standoffish. And there's this beautiful moment where Yorick just has enough of their crap, and he's like, Lyra had to overcome all of those things that you're dealing with now to help this child, and you're adults. She's a child. You should be ashamed of yourself that you're acting the way you are in front of her, who has shown like utmost courage and compassion. Get yourself together, get your crap together, and fix this. And they do, of course. And that moment was missing in the show because, it being Billy, everyone overcame those things pretty quickly because, again, they had common territory. There was emotion. It was part of the family. And so it's easier for you to jump over those things and master those things when it's someone close to you as opposed to a stranger. So I felt that was a little missing, but it was a very small nit to pick in that sequence. Other than that, fantastic job across the board on that one. Okay, that is it for this video. Another fantastic episode. I'm continually impressed by how well they are doing adapting the story to the screen. It's a very hard job to do, and to do well, and most people fail miserably in one way or another, and they are skating that line very, very well. I haven't failed at all. Yeah, that's it. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can leave them in the comments, and until I see you guys again in the next video, have a good day, read a good book, and if you have a show or a book you would like me to look at, let me know, and I will try to get to it on the channel. So yeah, that's it. Have a good one, and I will see you guys in the next video.